I'm Andy Smith. I'm an Appreciative Inquiry facilitator and trainer and have been for about the last 12 years now. A couple of organizations that I've worked with personally. One is it's like a financial services training company for financial advisors, making sure that this is based in the UK, making sure that they stick to the ever-evolving raft of regulations coming out of the government on financial services. They called me in initially to work with their management team and help them to work more effectively together. So we did a day's appreciative inquiry around that and looked at when things were working well and what factors were present, helped them to work together better there. About a month later, they got the entire company in to look at some ways that they could do things better, ways they could save money in different areas of their operations. The whole sort of 40 people in that company were present, minus maybe one or two that were off on vacation or something. And also people from the head company that owned them, that they were a subsidiary of, that provided their central services like the finance and the payroll and the marketing and so on, HR. So representatives of those were there as well. They came up with what their topics were that they wanted to look into. They came up with ideas about how to improve each area of the business. People from the central services kind of rotated around each little subgroup, had a look at the ideas that they were creating and contributed to them to make sure that they were realistic and doable from their point of view. We had what's called a graphic facilitator in an amazing lady called Anna Geyer, who sort of, as the day goes on, she draws out a picture of what she's hearing. So you end up with this massive great sheet of paper with like graphic depiction of the ideas and the concepts that people have been talking about. And by the end of the day they were telling me, yeah, we found several areas where we can start saving money straight away and do things more efficiently. So I was very pleased with that. So that's one. That's Compliance First, based in Glasgow, Scotland. The other one was a women's prison in the north of England, where I was called in by the head of the nursing staff there to help with remodeling their drug dispensing regime. Generally, people who are put in women's prisons in the UK, they're there for all kinds of reasons. But one thing most of the inmates, the women, have in common is that there's some kind of drug involvement going on. So either they're addicted to heroin or similar, or else they're on very heavy, or can be on very heavy, like antidepressant regimes or antipsychotic regimes. So there's a lot of drugs to be dispensed each day. And they can't just give each prisoner the drugs and say, okay, there's your drugs, take them, because some of them wouldn't take them. They'd store them and sell them to other prisoners, or they wouldn't comply. So some of them have to be kind of watched over while they actually take them at the point of dispensing. This regime of dispensing the drugs, therefore, the logistics of getting people in and out of their cells and over to the clinic and so on, it took most of the day. The whole prison routine was kind of based around this. So the prison officers were not too enthusiastic about this whole thing, because they saw the whole routine of the prison as being distorted around having to fit around this drug dispensing regime. Meanwhile, the nursing staff were thinking, oh, we've really got to sort of bend our drug dispensing regime out of shape in order to fit it into the prison routine. And the nurses, the prison officers, they weren't talking to each other that much, really, in the course of the day, just kind of like transactional stuff, you know, okay, here's your prisoner to deliver to the clinic and so on. They weren't that friendly with each other, and they were two different cultures. So we got a load of prison officers and a load of nursing staff in the room with the topic of how do we get a better drug dispensing regime. We couldn't really start off with that. Couldn't get them asking each other, okay, what's been your best experience of remodeling a drug dispensing regime? Because very likely nobody had taken part in that before. The warm-up question, as it were, that I asked them, I got each prison officer to pair off with a member of nursing staff. So you have these people from different worldviews talking to each other. Ideally, I would have liked to get some prisoners in there as well, but just from a logistical and security point of view, that just wasn't possible. And the question I got them to interview each other about was, what's been your best experience of working here? And over the course of the next 20 minutes or so, while they were interviewing each other, you could see the atmosphere in the room gradually changing, or rapidly changing, actually. And some of these real hardened prison officers, they were getting quite emotional as they told these stories about how they'd helped a woman get off heroin, how another one had helped a woman be reunited with her kids after she'd come out of prison. The atmosphere in the room completely changed because people open up to each other when they're talking, when they're being asked about things that they're proud of, things they've achieved, their strengths, their successes, much more so than if they're being asked about problems, failures, challenges, weaknesses, where they tend to just clam up. With that change in atmosphere, they were then in a more generative, creative frame of mind, and they could come up with new ideas, creative ideas for actually improving this drug dispensing regime, which I believe they actually did after that day. And it just took a day. I haven't followed up with them for a few years now, so I don't know if the working relationships have permanently changed, but it certainly would have given them a foundation to do so if they wanted to go in that direction.